Now, there's a huge controversy in the knife world. A lot of these knife experts are starting to catch on that you don't have to spend $200 for a good knife. Now, years ago, I used to watch a lot of videos and the guys would say, oh, if the knife's, 20 bucks or 15 bucks, it's cheap, it's junk, it's made in China, so it's not very good. Today, I can tell you, I've done a lot of testing. And by the way, I'm not an expert. Don't pretend to be an expert. I just research things heavily. I use things. I do catering. I do a lot of cooking, chef work. The thing that I love is knives and knife sharpening. And what I wanted to know was, do I have to really spend a lot of money to get a good knife? Now, a lot of you watching this video are people that are home cooks, backyard barbecuers, maybe a private chef, and you really don't have a lot of knowledge on knives other than you want them really sharp and they need to cut well. And then you start getting into they should be balanced and feel good with the pinch grip and things like that. And you start refining your desire for the type of knife you like. I found some knives, and you're not going to believe this. The price, $9.98. That's right, $9.98. Not for one, not for two. This whole set, $9.98. Now, we're going to get into a little bit of some geekiness with metal, and again, not an expert, but I'm going to just tell you what I've found. My channel is really about more cooking, home cooks, chefs, backyard barbecuers, average people like yourself that may not even consider yourself a cook, but you cook in the kitchen. There are a lot of knives that I've collected over the years. I love all my knives. This knife right here, this is not a cheap knife, out of Florida. It's actually designed there, made in Germany. It's German steel. It is X50 CR MOV 15, high carbon steel. Excellent, excellent steel, excellent knife. And I think this is probably my favorite knife. It's not the most expensive I have, but it is my favorite. These knives are ergonomically designed, and they really are. The way that they hold the knife, the taper, the pinch grip, the nice smooth curves here. It's just so comfortable, and it's super, super balanced. I mean, the knife is just really an incredible knife. But I can't afford to spend $150 to $200 per knife to get an entire set, so I've collected ones over the years that are a lot of different prices. But I came across some knives that I thought, could this really be a knife world deception? That is, does the knife world go on branding and provide the same value as a knife that's much cheaper, but you're paying for the marketing, you're paying for the fact that maybe they're manufacturing less knives than in production. There's just a whole lot of factors to pricing. And when it comes to knives, I have definitely seen that to be the case. I've seen knives that are absolutely identical steel. They are made by two different companies. They're trying to compete with each other. One is, $50 less than the other. It's the same knife. But you're not going to have the cool branding image of people seeing you use a knife that has brand X versus a no-name knife that maybe people think is just a piece of junk, and it really isn't. So this set, I'm going to tell you right now, is $9.98. I really like the fact it came with this cover. I wish they would have included these as plastic covers too, but they come with cardboard for protection, which is fine. And we're going to talk about these knives, and then you can decide whether you think it's worth to invest $9.98 plus tax and shipping, unless you have Amazon Prime. I'll put the link in the Amazon store down below because I think these are an incredible value. A lot of knives that come out of the factory are on the best tester around $350-ish, $300. We're going to get the best test here in just a few minutes. I don't really like the paper test. I tell you why, because it just shows the knife sharp enough to cut paper. This kind of is a cool test where you take this, I'm not gonna touch the paper. We wanna see if we can just take this and slice it right down, not hold it. A lot of times when you hold the paper, you can get it a little bit firmer to help that knife glide. I just wanna see if this knife will go right through this paper. The thing about this is the knife definitely has imperfections we're gonna talk about, but those imperfections really are things you can't complain about for $9.98 for 3 knives. The one thing I did find on this knife is there is a burr. When knives come from a factory, they should not have a burr on them. The burr happens in the sharpening process. And curiously enough, all 3 of these knives do have a little bit of a burr, kind of in the same spot and in the same direction, which shows me they were sharpening things a certain way, and they actually finished on this side, actually, the knife, because if I take the knife here, and I can actually see this, and you can't really see it, but I can see this kind of flat reflection, where if I take the knife and I put my fingernail up here, and I'm gonna do this, let's do this real quick, right here, it clicks. On this knife as well, we have our little smaller knife. I also can feel in a couple areas there's a little bit of a burr, not bad. And this end over here is perfectly smooth, there's no burr. And then same with this knife, I can feel on this side. That's just me rubbing my fingernail at the top, like that. There's a burr. Hear it catching? If you go on this side, there's no catch. It's very smooth. Let's do this quick test and just see how it cuts first before we do any best testing. Oh my God, I did not do that before this video, I promise you. Woo, that is sharp. Let's do that again. Oh my God. That is that's razor sharp. I'll bet you on the best scale, this is gonna be actually a low score, because low score is sharper, but a really super low scoring knife. I'd be shocked if it wasn't. Oh, let's try this one over here and see how this is. Now that's sharp, but it definitely catches. There's a burr, you'll see. Right there. Now see how that was smooth? So that's because the burr is, yep, hear the click? The burr is right there. And by the way, that is what the paper test is for. It isn't really to show you that the knife is sharp. You take the knife and you move it through the paper and it's not buttery smooth and you start feeling catching or hearing the roughness. You have not sharpened the knife to its ultimate sharpness, which is smooth, deburred. You've got it honed. There's no burr on that apex. That knife should just glide through the paper. So that's the value of the paper test. It really isn't to tell you that, the knife is sharper than one knife, because you only need a certain level of sharpness to get through that paper. These, though, are really sharp. This one is wicked sharp. And the burr on this one, although I can feel it, is definitely not as severe as these. Okay, so here we have our best tester. We're gonna go and do a test and see the sharpness, and we're gonna see how sharp it goes. I'm not even gonna look at the display. I wanna just press down easily until this thing breaks. And oh my God, this is 128. Let's see, $9.98 divided by 3. I'm laughing because I can't believe you can make 3 knives. You can make actually 3 knives, package them, sell them, put them on Amazon, make a profit. Maybe they're not making a profit for $9.98. That's insane. Okay, next up is our utility knife. We're gonna go ahead and test this one and see how this tests out very slowly. We're gonna cut the media. 138. Now we're gonna do our third test, the paring knife. Now, before I start this test, I just want to remind you that this channel is specifically for cooking knives for chefs, backyard barbecuers, personal chefs, professional chefs. We talk about, the sharpeners that I would recommend they use, sharpeners that I use. It's really focused on the culinary world. We're going to take this knife now. We're going to do a test. Okay, not a good score. You got a burr here. That's a problem. Let's see if we can get this a little bit better. Okay, so I have my leather strop and I've got my PA70 compound. It's my Tormek compound, 3000 grit. We're gonna see if we can get this knife a little bit sharper. We're gonna go ahead and I wanna see if we can get this going here real quick. Okay, I feel it smoothing out. That's good. And here we go. 98. Do it again, because people might say, oh, you only did one test. 98, okay, we've got our media. So we'll do the second test. Typically you do 3 tests, you average them out, that gives you the relative score. So we'll go into our second test. I'm not gonna do 3, we'll just do 2 on this. $71. So 71, it shows you this varies based on exactly where you put it. It should be the same pressure, steady every time, but you will get a little bit varying numbers, which is normal. Absolutely frickin' cut your finger off sharp with this thing. I hone and I leather strop all the time. I don't sharpen all the time. I only sharpen occasionally when the knife is done with what I think is maximum sharpness, just doing the honing and then leather stropping. The leather strop does show you, it does sharpen the knife, but if you're cutting fruits, vegetables, even probably meat off the bone, you'll be, I think, absolutely fine with this. And we're gonna do some testing and see how it works to show you that $9.98 either is gonna work well on some food or it's not gonna work well with some food. So let's go and do some testing and see how it turns out. Okay, so we have some bones here, femur bones from a cow, because I'm gonna do some bone marrow. I love bone marrow. So you'll see that video coming up in the future, but we got some nice big honky femur bones. I took the knuckles off of these little ones. We're gonna go ahead and do this here, and we'll be back in just a second. Now I'm intentionally cutting on the bone. That's sinew, so it's a really tough piece of membrane. And let's see if we can just cut this like so. Voila. Okay, looks pretty good. This should really be damaging the knife or causing it to roll over the edge. And I was able to cut off a tip right here. So we're gonna clean this up. Okay, so we're cleaning off our knife. $91. We'll double check that. But 91 again, cut on the bone, cut the meat. It's just one job. I am gonna do a follow-up on these knives though for $9.98, just saying. Now, let's talk about the handles. Injected molded plastic handles, I can tell. They definitely look like they are stainless steel rivets that go through the knife. The handles on these things actually feel very nice, I will say. That nice curved taper feels good in the hand. The pinch grip on this feels a little chunky, but it's not bad. But it definitely isn't something that I would like to probably do over a long period of time. I think my fingers would probably get a little sore here. If you use a pinch grip, for me, my fingers, it just feels very chunky, and I have these kind of protruding into my fingers versus a $200 knife that is designed ergonomically, and that's why you pay good money for good knives. Can't complain, $9.98. Now this, the spline on this, the actual, the metal going all the way through here, the tang, it is a full tang, so it goes all the way through. They did a good job on this knife. There's no metal protruding above the handle. I did notice though that right here on the knife, right here, is a little bump, and that's probably, and it's consistent on all the knives. Each one of these has this right here. So no doubt this is from an injected molding process, and when it came out of the mold, for whatever reason, right there is a point that was not perfectly smooth, or they just are polishing these up and buffing these the same exact way, and for whatever reason they're missing this little spot, not really sure. The other thing is that the metal on these, they stop sharpening, which isn't uncommon in really cheap knives. They don't go all the way back. They don't have any sharpening actually going from here to here, about 1/4 inch, where you can see on some of these knives that I have, they go all the way back to the end, all the way down. So this is a Japanese knife. This one goes all the way down to the, now most people aren't gonna be cutting right back there. There's a little bit, the metal comes up just a little bit I can feel out of the top of this. And you can see on this one, it's kind of hard to see. It does stick up a little bit right here, so I can feel it a little bit. Again, it's not really a complaint for $9.98. I'm actually really excited that these knives are really this well put together for under 10 bucks for all three of them. So now we're going to inspect the knives with a microscope and see what those look like. And if you take a look up on the side, you'll be able to follow along. If we look here on this edge, we can see there's a little bit of a burr right there, a little bit. But it looks really, really good. So this knife is really, really sharp. You can see the very top of that apex, the very, very edge, really sharpened well. Second knife, which will be the actual paring knife, the one that we didn't use for the meat. I wanna do this last for a reason. And we're gonna go ahead and look at this, and look at this. Looks really nice. And our final knife that we did with the bone, cut on the bone, cut some bone off, lots of meat. And you can see here that, again, very similar, the sharpening pattern on the secondary bevel to the primary bevel. Okay, so here is the knife that we used to cut the meat off the bone. Let's see if we've got any like damage in that, although, you know, it tested out. Still, I think it has a 91. It's still razor sharp even after slicing through that bone, which means the steel held up pretty well. So that is my overview of a $10 knife set from Amazon. And I think for $10, you really should check it out. Drop a comment, let me know what you think if you get these. And I will have a follow-up, as I promised, down the road here to show you the results after I've used these knives for a period of time. Thanks for watching. If you have any ideas of other things you'd like to see in the way of culinary knife sharpening, please drop a comment. Don't forget to subscribe and like, because that is what keeps me going. Until the next time, smoke on, baby.